What's up, dog fans? We are coming at you on a eventful Tuesday night. Right now, the college football playoff rankings show just finished up, and we have our rankings this week. I'm Jack Wright, and I'm here with my co-host.
Miles Thornton, what's going on, Dog Nation? How y'all doing? Eventful Tuesday.
Yes, so we're going to get into it a little bit. We're going to get into a couple potential scenarios we got after looking at what has just gone down on ESPN. A couple scenarios, kind of what the playoff bracket looks like as of now, and what Georgia fans can expect in terms of maybe a potential home playoff game, a potential home playoff opponent who we might have next, kind of getting everything in between. So we'll start off with the rankings. So for the dog fans, we saw Georgia roll in at number 7. 9-2 Georgia moves up 3 spots from last week's number 10 after a dominant win against UMass. Miles, how do you feel about rolling in at number 7? I know you won't say.
I was about to say, I think it's great. I think to be ranked at all it means something. So for us to be 7, of course I think everybody wants to be higher. Everybody wants to be number 1 and whatnot. But I think we just let our play talk. You know what I mean? I don't really believe too much in rankings. You know what I mean? I think that I think it's just about it's any given Sunday. That's what football is like. So they can rank us number 7. They can rank us whatever they do, but we're gonna play. We're gonna have to play. We're gonna have to show up and play. But at the same time, I mean, I'm more focused on tech. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm more focused on what's next more than the rankings. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's been something that as fans we all like to see Kirby talk about is we let people know who we are on the field.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it in the press. We're not going to go and whine about being number 7 or number 4 or number 10 or number 12 or whatever. We're going to go out there and show why we should be the best team in the country. We are the best team in the country and why we should be number 1. But at number 7, if you've done the math in your head by now, that would give us a home playoff game. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about the potential environment of a home playoff game for Georgia?
Man, I feel great. I don't think there's a better place to play in the entire nation. So to be able to have a home playoff game in Sanford with the packed out stadium, I mean, I think that gives us an edge and advantage for sure. Especially, I know our Georgia fans are going to come up and they're going to show out. So it's going to make it hard for whoever we have to play in that playoff game. So definitely excited about that. And I think it's a extreme benefit for us. So
yeah, definitely. And as of right now, we would have a rematch of just over a week ago.
Yeah,
we'd have a rematch against Tennessee. But I think this is kind of a temporary ranking right now because obviously we have the SEC championship on the horizon. Obviously, we're focused on tech right now, but winning the SEC championship would give us that first round bye that is so coveted by the CFP committee that they're making it look like, and which it is, the most valuable prize in football right now. So with that being said, as of now, Boise State has a first round bye in the playoffs, and I think this is something that is unprecedented in any sort of college football postseason we've ever seen. Obviously, 12-team playoff is crazy, but we wanted to include the Group of 5 school, but right now we're in a situation where we see one of those Group of 5 schools get the bye. And I think a lot of college football fans at the beginning of the season, even up until recently, up until watching these last 2 shows, thought it was only the Power 4 conferences that could get those first-round byes. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it now play out to where there's a real world where Boise State has a first-round bye, which is very entertaining for the general college football fan. What do you think that does for the sport as a whole to see Boise State get a first-round bye in the first 12-team playoff?
Well, I think they're a talented team, and they're taking care of business this season, as well as they have a hell of a player and Ashton Genty. You know what I mean? So, I think it just opens up a lot more possibilities for the sport. I think it keeps things interesting. It keeps people on their toes, and you never know. Just like I said earlier with the any given Sunday, this league now is any given league. So it could be this team, that team. It could be from this conference or that conference. You kind of don't know in the landscape that we're in right now, and that's scary to some, and it's also kind of exciting to it's not the same thing every year, and you never know what you're going to get next year. So
yeah, it's definitely for the general college football fan, it makes things a lot more exciting. But like hitting on the fact that this is a Group of 5 team, this is not your ordinary Group of 5 team. I mean, this team went toe to toe with Oregon on the road, lost on a game-winning field goal. They have a top 2 Heisman contender in their backfield. Like, this is a real football team that a lot of people are going to be sleeping on because they are the Group of 5 team. But this is a real football team who a lot of these teams should be looking at and saying, well, let's make sure we're taking them seriously and not sleepwalk through this game. I know there's no such thing as sleepwalking in the Georgia locker room, but for the other teams on here, let's make sure we don't sleepwalk through Boise State.
Yeah.
But what I think it is very impactful for that ranking in particular is NIL. And I think that's going to be big in the next couple of years, seeing that you can go to a team like Boise State and get your money, get your NIL and get your brand up, while also having a chance to compete for a national championship. You don't have to go to the Georgias or the Alabamas or the Ohio States anymore in order to make the national championship game. There are opportunities for you at these smaller schools to make your money and compete at the same time. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to see how that affects NIL going forward.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting moving forward. I know that the new college rule that was put into place where we're cutting our roster size down to 105 and kind of implementing almost like a payroll system now that also makes things interesting. And, like I was saying to you earlier off screen, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what the landscape of college football looks like now when that is implemented and how the transfer portal will affect all of that. And just finding a home for a lot of players that, may not have the chance to be on the rosters that they're already on before. And so, like you said, going to a smaller school, but still being able to compete at that high level to, hopefully garnish the opportunity to go to the championship or whatnot, that opens up a whole lot more possibilities for so many different student athletes who, are either overlooked or just don't fit where they are right now. So I think it'll definitely be interesting moving forward into next year to see kind of the shift and what will happen with NIL and all that. So I'm definitely anxious to see, what's coming next. So
yeah, I mean, that's very, very cool insight. But like, I mean, the cool part is like we say that and we're like, oh, Boise State's this great team. Boise State. There are other Group of 5 teams in the mix here who are also very real football teams. Like we have a team like Tulane who sits here at 17 who has a chance to get in if, let's say, Boise slips up or if Tulane plays their way in. I mean, Tulane took down USC in a U6 bowl 2 years ago. Like this is a very real football team with they lost their coach this offseason, I believe, or maybe 2 offseasons ago, but with a very real roster that can make noise. And so trying to be as neutral as possible and speaking from the general college football fan, I think it's super cool to see these teams get involved with like we'd never see, I mean, we did in 2011, but we'd never see a Boise State Georgia game. And now this is an opportunity. Or we'd never see a Boise State Ohio State game. Like now it's a cool opportunity to merge these teams and see what could happen in this fantasy world that's now becoming reality.
I say it almost feels video game like being able to play like as a kid, being able to play with any team from any conference and being able to, see games that you've never got to see before. So I think it's definitely interesting, and it's definitely something that, keeps college football exciting. So
I love it personally. It's going to be super fun. Kind of moving into some of these conference championship pictures because we've got some interesting ones. Georgia has already secured their spot, which is awesome for Dog fans. I mean, potential to go for a first round bye. We're looking at a win in your end game on the other side of I guess not the other side. There's no more east to west, but on the other side of the game, we have Texas versus Texas A&M at Texas A&M to decide who plays Georgia in the SEC championship. And I mean, Texas, other than us, has looked phenomenal this year. They've looked pretty much unblemished. I mean, I really can't think of a close game they've been in besides the one with us.
Right.
So obviously very strong team. And on the other side, you have Texas A&M, who's a very interesting case because A&M has looked super, super strong in some cases. And then in others, they've looked very beatable, very human. Like, I mean, they lost to South Carolina recently, lost to Notre Dame at home. And who's that other loss to? Do you remember?
Oh man. No, it's right on the tip of my tongue, bro. Hold on.
Let me find it really quick.
Yeah, I can see it. I hate when that happens, bro.
I'll find it. I kind of think it's LSU, but I'm not positive.
I want to say
Notre Dame.
I want to say
It's not LSU. Oh, we're stupid. We're so dumb. They lost in overtime to Auburn this past Saturday. That's the other loss.
Okay, that's why I don't remember.
We blanked. That game was wild.
Yeah.
That game was very entertaining. I think it went into 4 overtimes, I believe. So A&M has looked like this great. I mean, they went out. LSU doesn't look like an incredible win now, but they beat LSU by 15. They beat up a top 20 ranked Missouri team by 33 points. Like this is a team that you don't really know what to expect until they hit you in the face. And so, or you hit them, depending on who hits first. But I think this is going to lead to a very fun SEC championship game, regardless of the outcome. I think in Atlanta, there's a lot. Texas fans and A&M fans do travel, but Atlanta is a good spot to play for Georgia in general. Have you seen that there's a potential for us to play in that stadium 4 times this year?
Yes, I have seen that. And
Play open with Clemson, play in the SEC, potential Peach Bowl in the semifinals, and Natty's in Atlanta. So we could play, what is that? Almost 12 times. No, we could play almost 11 times in Georgia this year. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. That'd be fun. But moving away from the SEC championship, because we kind of know what's happening there. An interesting one is the Big 12 championship. As of right now, there's a 4-way tie for first place between Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and Iowa State. We saw BYU and Colorado both slip up this past week, and Colorado dropped to Kansas, and BYU dropped to somebody else. Both still ranked. Colorado comes in at 25. BYU came in at 19, I believe. Arizona State is at 16. Yep. And Iowa State is at 18. So we kind of have a big mix up in the middle right there.
Right.
What do you think kind of goes into the mindset of some of these teams when there's such a lock at the top? Where, I mean, obviously the logic is win. That's all you can do. But if you were put yourself in the shoes of one of these teams that doesn't necessarily control their own destiny, because obviously all 4 of them can't win and in. Some of them need losses.
Right.
If you're in that and you're in the locker room, what is kind of the mindset watching and having no control over the game?
Yeah, I honestly think like you said, it is that win mentality where it's kind of like executing the game plan and things like that. But when you're in a situation like that, it's really just about staying composed. You know what I mean? It's just about you control the controllables. You literally have to go out there and give your best performance, because if not, then there's a possibility that you are, left out. And so in the locker room, I think you're just telling yourself like this week is all about execution. This week I can't, I can't afford to make these mistakes. So it's almost like, your season is coming to the back end of the season. Now it's time to start polishing things up. It's time to start making sure that we're executing the things that we've been working on since day one. And we're staying positive as well as staying optimistic. Because a lot of the times what happens within a team is there's not a lot of optimism. People start to lose hope or lose faith towards the end of seasons. And that you can see it in the energy that people bring to practice. And so practice is the most important part and the preparation that you do for the game. And so you got to bring the energy every single day. And like you win that game by winning at practice every week. And so I think the mentality is just, attack practice, attack what we can control right now, and then you got to let the chips fall where they will.
Yeah, definitely. That was a sick quote. There's a good quote in there. I like that.
Sure.
I was listening to Deion Sanders' post-game presser after their loss to Kansas, and something he said kind of, I mean, really went into my brain. And it's something I can't say that I've ever seen as a Georgia fan, but you see it at a lot of these, I don't want to say smaller programs, but these less experienced programs in the big moments where Dion was saying, or Coach Prime was saying, that his team got so caught up in the what ifs and the where can we go, what can we do, that they completely lost sight of Kansas, which is a very good football team. They don't have a good record, but they have. I was listening to something this morning. If you stopped every single one of their games at the 2-minute warning, that's a 9-2 football team. Instead of, I think they have 5 losses, maybe. That's a very, very good football team. And it was, Dion said it himself. He said that he thinks his team sleptwalked through that game. And I mean, it's just obviously frustrating as if you're a Colorado fan, but as a player, you just wish you could have that week back. You're like, I was so focused on what if we get a first round bye? Who would we play in the first round? Would we have a home playoff game? Where would we be going? Would it be snowing? Like all these things where you're like, I just wish I could have that week back to really just lock in.
You just reminded me of back in high school, man. It was the same way. Like we lost the first round of the playoffs because we kind of overlooked the team that we were playing. Like we didn't even really. We were literally the week of that team. We were talking about the next team that we were playing. And so I think it happens in football a lot where you kind of look past these opponents who may not be ranked as high or may not have shown something that is alarming to you, but every game is important. Every single game is important. And so I think like with us for Georgia, for example, like we're not thinking about the SEC championship right now. Like Tech is on the table. That's what we are focused on. We not even focused on the rankings, and we're not focused on who we're going to be playing, where we're going to be playing the game. We're not worried about that right now. Right now, what we're worried about is the game that we have to play this Friday. And so, I think, I've lived through that. I've lived through that firsthand of looking past a team and whatnot. And so that definitely can come back and be detrimental.
Yeah. And I think this week in particular, touching on Georgia, I think a week in particular where it is somebody like Tech, where it is a rival, there's just no looking over that. It's a game where regardless of the year, regardless of the roster, that's a game that will be close. There will be a lot of hatred, and there will be game planning throughout the year for this game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm sure we've implemented some drills in practice about Tech, and Tech has been preparing for us through the season. Obviously not week by week, but they have implemented drills through the season, whether it's in the off season or now. They have been prepping for us. We have been prepping for them. This is not a game that we're looking over just because of the kind of game that it is.
Yeah, and especially it being in-state rivalry game, you know what I mean? For both sides, both teams, it's a lot of Georgia kids, and we all grew up watching both teams. And so, a lot of people were recruited by both teams as well. And so it's something that, as a player, you're accustomed to as well, especially if you're from Georgia. It's something that, you grew up watching. You grew up, households divided between Georgia Tech. And so it's definitely it's exciting always this time of year. This is usually the game that my family looks forward to, at least. So definitely excited for this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great one. I remember I have been to 2 Georgia Tech games in my life. One of them was in 2015, I want to say.
Yeah.
Where it was at home, and we threw a pick in overtime to lose the game.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy that.
They had to remind me about that one, but yeah.
But the most recent one was the one where Brock Bowers scored a 75-yard touchdown across the middle and just took it to the house, and that was fun.
Shout out Brock.
And I always shout out Brock. Him and Ladd, Number one
Ladarius.
in rookie receiving yards right
Yes,
now.
sir. Yes, sir.
And Georgia's not a weapon producer. Who said that?
You know.
They don't know. They don't know. So jumping around a little bit, let's talk about the Big Ten.
Okay.
Big Ten has been quite the conference this year, quite the powerhouse. Currently, as it sits, they have 3 teams in the top 4 and 4 teams in the top 10.
Okay.
Oregon and Ohio State sit at 1 and 2. We saw that play out earlier in the year where Oregon pulled out the win at home. This week, Oregon's already clinched into the game. Ohio State needs a win against Michigan at home. So, kind of going back to what we were saying, this is not a game that Ohio State can sleep through.
Right.
Even though Michigan is not a very good, doesn't have a very good record this season. I think they're 6-5, 5-6, somewhere in that ballpark. They don't have a great record. They've slipped up at times. They've lost this game 3 years in a row. Ohio State has not been good against Michigan in the past couple weeks or the past couple of years. And I'm trying to think through this. With a loss to Michigan and not making it to the Big Ten championship game, because I believe Penn State would potentially vault Ohio State because they would only have 1 conference loss.
Yeah.
And I think Indiana might as well in terms of Big Ten standings. But in a situation where they lose to Michigan for a 4th straight year and don't make the Big Ten championship game, where do you think that would slide at Ohio State to?
That's tough. That's tough because, oh man, it's weird because you kind of don't know how the committee kind of gauges wins and losses. I think that's something that is a point of confusion for a lot of people. So a 4 straight loss to them, I'm not sure where that would slide them. Honestly, I can't really, because like we were talking about, the weight of wins and losses is something that is kind of a mystery right now, and so I don't know if a loss to them would knock them maybe out of the top 8. I'm not sure.
That's kind of where I was thinking, and I actually think that a loss to Michigan holds more weight than a loss to some teams with better records.
Yeah.
Just because of how fierce that rivalry is, Michigan's roster is still very good. And I mean, it's just like we were talking about with Tech, those games always play close. Like the games are going to play close.
Yeah.
So I believe it would drop them somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10, somewhere in there. I don't think they're out.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing they're out.
Then again, I'm not in the committee, so I don't know.
Not in the committee. No idea. These are just complete guesses.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
So another fun storyline that's happening right now is in the ACC.
Yeah.
SMU has made a very big charge in the
Yes.
last couple of weeks. They are 10-1 now. They come in at number 9 in these most recent rankings. They have locked themselves into the ACC championship game. Their only loss coming to number 19 BYU. That is their only loss on the year. Miami clinches the ACC championship or a spot in the ACC championship game with a win against Fran Brown's Syracuse Orange.
Right.
Miami has had some interesting games this year. Miami has, in terms of, if you look at the games, has not performed as though I think Miami would have wanted themselves to perform. They've had some very, very close calls. Now, they did mount a miraculous comeback against Cal, which was very impressive. They played Virginia Tech tight, but they've had a very interesting season. So I don't want to ask another hypothetical.
Okay.
But in this hypothetical, if SMU is to knock off Miami, not where do you want to put them? What do you think the committee would do? So that's a 2-loss Miami, lost in the conference championship game, lost to Georgia Tech on the road.
Are you saying you saying where would they put Miami?
Where would they put Miami? SMU would have the bye if they were to win in the ACC championship.
Bro, you asking all these committee questions, bro. I don't know, bro. I don't
That's
know,
fair.
bro.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Bro, I'm trying to figure it out myself, bro. I don't
Yeah.
know, bro.
There's no rhyme or reason. That's why I said not what you think. That's why I said not what you think, because I don't want you to give any strong opinions on it. But I think that would be such a hard case to judge. I feel like they would be right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
I think they would, instead of Ohio State looking at 8 to 10, I think they're looking at 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And I mean, the outside looking in right now, if these rankings that I have next to me, those first 3 teams out right now, as of where it stands, or those first 4 teams are Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. Very, very, very strong teams with strong rosters, strong coaches, strong resumes.
Mm-hmm.
If a team like Miami has 2 losses to Tech and to SMU, can I reason with myself to say South Carolina might deserve a spot over that Miami team? That's me. I think South Carolina is a very, very, very good football team.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared of anybody as a Georgia fan. I'm glad we don't have to play them this year because they are a unpredictable monster where you catch them one week and they'll go toe-to-toe with Alabama on the road. Lost on a missed 2-point conversion, toe-to-toe with LSU, missed a kick to lose the game.
Yeah.
Then you see them play Ole Miss, and they get blown out of the water. Aaron Murray, Mr. TPL, has South Carolina as his 6th ranked team in the country overall, which is super fun. I like that. I think it's fun. I think it adds a little bit of spice to life. Get a couple clicks, have to.
Aaron.
Have to. But yeah, I think the outside looking in is super interesting because if you look at the last 4 that are in and the last 4 that are out, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season, I would have had those completely flipped and been like, yeah, I could see Indiana being on the outside, Boise being on the outside, SMU being on the outside, and Clemson, Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss being on the inside. But I mean, I think it just goes back to what we said at the beginning. The 12-team playoff makes things so interesting. Yeah. And it adds such a sense of suspense to the end of the season where we were looking at it last year where you lose the last game of the season, you lose in the last month of the season, you're done. You're out. There's no coming back. Yeah. If you lose in August and build your way back or September and build your way back, you can earn your chance. But if you lose to a team like if Ohio State were to lose to a team like Michigan, we've seen it the last couple of years. They're gone. They're not in. They are no longer in the playoff.
Yep.
So I think it adds a great sense of suspense to what's happening.
Definitely interesting.
So kind of moving away from the playoff, moving away from teams. Let's talk about some players. Let's talk about one of the closest Heisman races that I can remember. Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty. I don't know.
Jeanty?
What is it? Do you know?
I think it's Jeanty. That's how I hear it pronounced all the time, Jeanty.
Ashton Jeanty. I trust you more than I trust myself. Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty having this back and forth race all season where about halfway through the season, it was like, if Jeanty doesn't win, we riot.
Yeah.
And now we're nearing the end of November, nearing December, nearing NYC time. And everybody's like, Travis Hunter is one of the best two-way players we've ever seen. If he doesn't win, we riot. Yeah. And there's still those Jeanty believers that are like, he's having the best running back season since Barry Sanders. Why is he not the front runner? And there's the Travis Hunter stands who are like, he's literally playing both sides of the ball almost every snap of the game, scoring interceptions, pass deflections, making an impact.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on your personal Heisman race?
So for me, right, I always thought, which I don't think I'm alone here, but the Heisman is the best player in college football. Correct?
Correct.
And so, like for me, of course, I'll go back a couple of years. Like to me, the best player in college football a couple of years ago was Brock Bowers, and so to see him not win that Heisman, kind of, I don't know. The Heisman is kind of it's a tricky one. It's like, is it more about who's more popular? Is it about the best player? It's something that's changed over time, in my opinion. But if we're going based off of the best player in college football, I mean, Ashton is having an amazing, unprecedented season. This is amazing. He's a great running back, great player, and like he shows up every single game. And you can't even game plan against him at this point. Like even if you do game plan to stop the run, like he's gonna find a way. And so like, hell of a running back, man. And like, you watch him. It's like he's playing in the backyard, like for real, for real. It's like he's playing in the backyard. And then over to Travis, like, I don't even know what to say.
Like you're a wide receiver. You're a wide receiver. Can you imagine playing every single snap, and then they're like, "All right, TV timeout," or not even TV timeout? They're like, "Punt, defense, get on," and you're like, "Go."
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm on offense and I'm getting strapped up by a dude that literally just scored a touchdown, doing the same thing I just did, I'm not gonna lie. that guy, he's him. Let's be real. Let's call it how it is. Okay. Deion saw something in him that he saw in himself a long time ago.
Yep.
This guy is special. This is a special dude. He is playing both sides of the ball. Like this, Ashton Jeanty looks like he's playing at recess with his friends.
He really does.
Travis Hunter looks like he's playing at recess with the lower classmen. Okay, like he's literally on both sides of the field doing it all, and at a high level too. I mean, even Travis Hunter got mine. He got my Heisman.
He's got your vote.
He got my pick just because if we're talking about best player, then he's the most versatile and he's doing it at the highest level, and he's always consistent with what he does. And then let's not even talk about how great of a person he is off the field. I love Travis Hunter, man. Shout out Travis Hunter, dog. But he's a great dude, bro, and a great player, great football player. Exciting to watch too. Yeah. And I mean, bro, like what can you say? If it's about popularity on top of that, I mean, look at the dude. His streaming is going insane, and he's every time I open Instagram, I see Travis Hunter, bro. So.
And I actually think that helps his case for some of these awards.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because he is more personal. So this is something that I was just thinking about, and I want your take on it because I'm going back and forth mentally right now because it just ping-ponged in my head. If there was a Heisman Trophy award, which, as we know, best player in college football, and an MVP of college football, would you give those to two different people this year?
Low key, yes.
I think I would too.
Low key, yeah. I think I would give the MVP to Ashton for sure.
Yes,
that's exactly where I'm at. MVP for sure, because like, for sure. Especially the contribution he makes to his team, he's definitely MVP.
Boise is not a playoff team without Ashton Jeanty. They're not.
Yeah.
And I obviously I know how great Travis Hunter is. He has my Heisman vote right now. I'm a Jeanty guy.
Yeah.
But Travis has done too much to like not put I can't not put my chips in that basket.
You feel me? It's like
it's crazy. But I think Colorado can win if Travis is having an off day or if Travis doesn't play.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
I don't think Boise State is winning 10 games without Ashton Jeanty. I think Colorado might drop a game here or there without Travis Hunter, but they have weapons all over the field. I mean, Jimmy Horn is fantastic.
Yeah.
Jimmy Horn's so good. And the kid that transferred from Vandy, do you remember who I'm talking about?
I see his number, but
yeah. I'm blanking on his name. Very talented kid. He was very good at Vandy. Hasn't really gotten his number called that much at Colorado, but that's just because Travis Hunter's there. But I mean, I just think I think if you separated them, there's a real argument to give them to two different people.
Yeah, no, really though.
And I think what makes this conversation so much different than past Heisman conversations is that in years past, it has been a quarterback award. It has only been a quarterback award. Last Heisman winner we saw was Devontae Smith, but that wasn't a quarterback. And before that was Derrick Henry. And before that was Mark Ingram, I think. So we've only seen 3 in like 15 years. No, more than that. Almost 20 years, we've only seen like 3. So I think in past years, we were able to look at 2 quarterbacks because they were almost always the same. Or even if it was a quarterback and like an edge rusher,
Right.
you're able to say like, well, the quarterback is more valuable. That's just how it is. The quarterback is more valuable than the edge rusher. This year, we can't take stats because stats are usually a big part of the conversation, even though they don't make you the best player. Obviously, stats don't mean everything. They're important and they can be used in conversation. We can't do that here.
Right.
We can't. They're not comparable. We're looking at for Travis. I mean, the stats you're looking at that are important are snaps played, passes defended, interceptions, receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, catches. For Genty, we're looking at yards per carry, yards in a game, rushing touchdowns, snaps played, rushing attempts. Like we're looking at all these things, and it's not comparable, which makes this probably in my personal memory, the most interesting Heisman race I can remember.
Yeah, I think this one definitely has. I think this one is more like you don't know how it's gonna fall. Like you really don't know, how it's gonna go. So I think this one definitely has that kind of that angst to it. They're like, ooh, wait, who are they really gonna pick? And like, why are they gonna pick him? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I feel like in years past we've known who the Heisman is usually going into the ceremony. We're usually like, yeah, I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, should have been Brock, but yeah, usually
should have been Brock.
Yeah.
Should have been Brock.
I'm always gonna rip the G, bro. It should have been Brock. Okay.
Should have been. JD almost made it to that final ceremony too a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I think he finished 5th. I think he was one outside getting to the ceremony, which would have been crazy.
Been nuts.
And Ndamukong Suh almost did it in 2010 or 2009. That was the last time we had a like true interior guy get up there. I think that's going to wrap up our college football conversation for the day, Miles. I really appreciate you jumping on here with me. I think it's a nice change up from the typical Georgia pace.
Appreciate you having me. Hey, it was fun talking though. I like it.
Yeah, maybe we can do some more stuff like this in the future. We'll see what we can stir up. But we appreciate all y'all for listening. If you have any hot takes, if you agree, disagree with anything we said, drop it down below. We love to read it. I'll read it. I'll respond to some. Maybe getting a little friendly debate, a little friendly banter.
Jack like to argue, y'all. Jack like to argue.
I do. Hey, don't say argue. I like to debate. I love debate.
Yeah, debate. He likes to debate. Yeah, all right.
It's all the same. But yeah, we appreciate you watching. I have been Jack Wright.
I'm Miles Thornton.
We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.